So, twist of fate would have it.
I know, fate would have it.
That you're at Cannes,
Yeah.
and there is an Elvis film at Cannes. I believe you've seen it. Is that right?
I have seen it, yes.
What did you think?
That's a very long, I'd probably have a very long answer to that, but I will say.
We have time.
Yeah, you're doing okay. I will say, you know, it was a very emotional experience to watch. I watched it with my mother and my grandmother and my sisters and my father. And it's very intense to watch it when it's your family, you know? It's an interesting position to be in where there's kind of free reign over like who gets to tell your story. Like there's no, you know, we don't really have control over, you know, it kind of goes back to telling somebody else's story, you know, and hoping, you know, and there is something in that where you're like, oh, it feels like you're, you know, this is, you know, ours, you know, and there's, so I think initially I felt like, you know, you feel a little like, I hope that you want them to do a great job and you want them to get it right, you know, and I think that Baz is, you know, the first movie I ever watched in the theater where I went, I want to make movies was Moulin Rouge when I was 12, you know, and so that was a really, it was a real honor to know that he was interested in making this film, and I immediately, like, I'm such a fan of his, and I was as a kid, and, you know, Romeo and Juliet and Moulin Rouge for the age I was at the time were really impactful. So it was kind of this, wow, that's a, you know, really interesting, you know, so it wasn't as though I distrusted Baz in any kind of way, but you're protective over your story, over your family, and I think that, you know, I saw the work he put in, and he wanted to sit down with everybody and give everybody time, and you know, I could tell kind of right off the bat that he really cared that we felt heard and seen, and so that was nice. And you know, and so I had an idea that it was going to be, you know, he was starting it sort of the right way, and then, but I really had no idea what it was going to be like, you know, of course. So I watched it, and it was really, I think in the first sort of 5 minutes for me, I could just feel how much work Baz and Austin had put into trying to get it right. And that made me emotional immediately. So I started crying 5 minutes in, and I don't think I stopped. So it was like, so my first watch, like I'd like to watch it again because it was just very intense, and there's a lot of family trauma and generational trauma that sort of started around there for our family. So it's like, it was a very intense experience. But it's so, you know, I just felt really, at the end of the day, I felt so honored that they worked so hard to really get his essence, to feel his essence, and I really felt like Austin captured that so beautifully. And you know, I'm when it's your family, you're sort of extra critical, right? So it was, I wasn't expecting to be so impacted by Austin's performance and by what Baz was able to do, and yeah, I loved it. I did.
It sounds like Baz came to your family to discuss. So how involved were you and your mother and your grandmother in kind of talking to them and helping them with whatever they may have needed?
Yeah, well, Baz sort of sat down with my mom and I for a couple hours, and my grandma, I don't know how much time they spent together. They definitely spent time together. And he was just, you know, he was very involved in sort of, you know, our family was very involved in sort of, you know, helping him get to Graceland and speaking to whoever he needed to speak to, and kind of providing the resources that he needed. And yeah, you know, at the end of the day, we're not going to tell Baz Luhrmann how to, you know, make a movie.
Right. We are, I believe, right around the same age, within a year. So the movies that you mentioned,
yeah, you're like, oh.
I get it. I'm like, those are very impactful, I think, for all of us.
Yeah.
So we are just about to turn to audience questions. But my last question about that film, did Baz ever offer you a role in it?
He didn't, and I mean, I couldn't play my grandmother, you know, she was, you know, I think I'm the same age as Austin or older than him, you know, so that wouldn't have worked. And I don't know, I wouldn't want to. It's like, it's a little too, you know, close. yeah.
You're like, it's intense enough to
It's
watch.
intense enough to
wanna be
watch.
in
I don't
it.
want to like act it. You know?
Yes.
So yeah.
But you all look so much alike. It's
Oh.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I could see it, and
Yeah.
that's why I was wondering. They may have wanted you, but
Yeah.
you're like, I'm gonna.
Yeah,
be an
it was
audience
actually
member.
kind of never a conversation, and I think that that was a beautiful thing. You know, it was I wouldn't have wanted to.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe there was a boundary there that felt respected in a nice
Yeah.
way. I don't know. It's like, why do I? Yeah. Also, again, it's Baz Luhrmann. He can cast his own movie.
Right. Right.